I took my car, I'll drive behind him, then I'll just park, sign in. You see people, would you not use Range Rover for delivery? I'm like, we've upgraded.
Your mum also saw that change in personality that you described, and she kind of entrusted you to start to look after some of the family businesses at 16.
She had to go to the US, and I was back in Nigeria then. At first, I'm like, why? For the things that I want to do, I needed a different kind of education, and that was why the next step was, coming to the UK. I told my dad, it's like, you're having a laugh, because where is he going to get the money from? I got into modeling. I was on several billboards. That was how I was able to pay the deposits for my school fees, which ended up getting me to travel to the UK. I didn't even see these billboards because I've traveled by the time they're coming out. I just told her on the Friday, I'm really, really sorry. This does not cut it for me. I said, do you know how hard it is to make £1 in the UK? I said, I know, I can see. But I feel like there are other things that I could do. And if I'm stuck here, I will never know. So I did very, very well. But then the 2009 crisis happened. The next thing, I set up my own logistic company because I then turned it into a tech logistic company. And that was where I made my very first 7-figure revenue in tech. At some point, the logistic business did so well, but then I made the schoolboy error.
When that initially happened, what was your initial reaction?
This is the first place I'm going to admit this.
Today on Everyday Leadership, I have the pleasure of talking to someone who has had what I would describe as an amazing portfolio career. Um, Someone who's been in the game for a very long time, in so many ways, yet she's still very young. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to just delve into her backstory, currently right now, she is the CEO and co-founder of Tech1M, which is a recruitment automation and skill assessment platform. And apart from that, she's an award-winning serial entrepreneur in so many ways. G20 delegate in the UK, top 100 most influential leaders in tech, and so many other things like that. And she's a mother, two amazing children as well, and a wife. And I'm talking about the one and only Tommie Edwards. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. Thank you. Thank you, Shubham, for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And when I read your bio, there's a lot of things that you have done in your career so far. There are a lot of things I'm sure that are important to you. So I'm always curious to find out from the people I talk to, when people talk about you, when you describe who Tommy is, what is it important that people know about you?
Interesting. Okay, so I think when I describe Tommy, typically people go straight to the, serial entrepreneur Tommy has done. She's been in multiple industries and things like that. But I think for me, it's like some of the greatest joy I have is family, actually. So it is, mom of two, a wife, God fearing, and then the other things basically then come into it. And there's quite a lot of them. So at the moment, I think the way I describe myself, if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I just basically just go, Tommy, the CEO and co-founder of Tech1M. And then as we start to dive into conversations, they get to see, oh, there's a bit more than just that. And seeing that is, you start to see the Tommy that, I don't know, borderline introvert, but then has to be an extrovert. So it's like, what's my best time? Where do I like to be every single time? I just want to be at home under my duvet watching Netflix with the kids around. That's kind of like my sweet spot. But then with the career that I've chosen, it feels like, how is that possible? But I'm like, for every time I could do that, that's like my joy place. That's like my sweet spot. And those are kind of things that people probably wouldn't know about me because they just see me jumping from one place to another. Oh, she's here again and she's here again and she's doing this and she's doing that. But in as much as I do all of that, I crave, what is the latest series on Netflix, please? That I could just watch. Okay, so this one, I'm one of those kind of people that I just binge. So I think the one I just finished is Selling Sunset season 7.
Mm.
And that was just, I binged the whole thing. It was like, we have to watch this. So that's that. I love the perfect couple. I thought that was a beautiful ending, a beautiful twist. So that, no spoiler alert for people that haven't seen it. But those are kind of like the things that I'm kind of like into. But then, yeah, Emily in Paris. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I still have two more episodes to go. I
Oh,
still have
actually,
two
I
episodes
love
to go on
this.
that one.
I
Yeah.
love this because I think so many times people hear about entrepreneurs, and you have like I'm calling it the typical American mantra. You ain't got time to watch TV. You ain't got time to do all that. You gotta be out there hustling and grinding. And hearing you talk about, no, yeah, I'm out there doing stuff, and people see me doing that. But I just love being at home. I love just relaxing. I love watching TV and binging. How much does that, I guess, help you to be able to do what you do externally?
Oh, a whole lot. So the way I watch TV is crazy. So I had a friend stay with us. And she told me she stayed for 7 weeks. I'm like, I didn't even see her for 7 weeks, because it was so. But then the whole point was, I'm watching TV, but I have my laptop and I'm doing something. I'm looking up. I can multitask. I'm listening, but I watch and I don't watch. I don't know how I do it. I just know that I can actively. But then those sort of times where I'm able to sit down and do that, those are the times where I'm not doing something that requires a whole lot of thinking, but it requires a whole lot of doing. And it puts me in a very chilled space. And that is what I've realized. I use what I have around me. So I just wanted to be able to make sure that my kids know that I'm present. At the same time, I want to have like a chill time for my brain to be able to think about things other than work. And once I'm done with, like, the first barrel, drop it and then concentrate. And by the time I'm coming off that, I just have this whole sense of my head has gone to multiple places. And coming off that, whatever I'm watching gives me another perspective into something. So, and I won't say that that's the only thing I do, but that's the one I look forward to the most because I don't get to do it enough. Yeah, so I feel like as an entrepreneur you need to like grind. Everyone says that you can't do it without, it's like, it's sometimes a thankless job. However, then comes the period where is how do you balance it off, and people say there's no work-life balance, blah 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 blah. I don't know about that, but I feel like you need to find a space that is just, your own kind of space, your own kind of thing that chills you, that makes you want to go back again and do this all over again, and makes you wake up and be able to, be the leader that your team is expecting you to be. And I think without, if I have to just go 100 miles an hour every single time without any chill aspect of it, I'm just going to crash and burn. So for me, it's like, take that time to have a dinner with a friend. I don't do that often. Take that time to chill and, watch it. Netflix is the easiest thing for you to just pick up. And that's why I started doing that.
I love that. And you mentioned around you, people were surprised as well that you are an introvert. I am
Mm.
curious for us to go way back to a younger you, the first 10 years of your life, or what you like then.
If I could remember, the first time I was not a popular student, not in any way. I realized, so this is like, I think I know I've always been a leader. I knew that from, I think I realized that consciously at the age of 7 or thereabout. And this is because my parents are like, my mom works, my dad works. And when I come back from school, I have, as at then, I think I just had like two other siblings, but now I have three younger siblings. And I have to be the one to kind of like tell them this is what you're eating because my mom have kind of like set it up, and she has the notes, all the notes is to me. And then I'm like, okay, so you're having this, you're having that, locking the door, anyone knocking up, we're like, I can't open for you because there's no one, I was like actively talking to people. So I think what I realized then was in home setting, I've been built up to be this leader. And I just kind of like entered the role without even understanding what I was doing. But in school, I'm not like a popular kid. I'm not like, I didn't have a ton of friends, but I had like, my friends that I would say, oh yeah, I'm excited about school because I need to see this person and that person. But it was not like a whole lot of them. But then come to when I was going to senior school, like high school, my personality started to change a little bit. I started to be a bit more vocal, but still into myself. So I realized that, yeah, I can't fight. I can't relate to it, but I can talk if you. So I would, when someone comes and just blah, 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 try to bully me, I realized that no, I just don't go back and just sit down and get bullied. No, I talk my way out of it. I use my voice. So I realized that my voice was my strength, but I don't just use it anyhow. I use it if you when it is needed. So I'm not the first person to raise my hand in class and like, yeah, I know the answer. But then if no one is doing it, then I'm like, all right, this is it. And I just realized that about myself. And I think you're the one taking me back right now, thinking about it, that this is actually how I was. Then going into uni, I saw another side of me. And this is where I just had so many friends. I just realized that I could deal with people from multiple backgrounds, completely different background. I have like different types of friends, and when you put them together, you cannot see the similarities, and you're wondering how is this person and this person, but I'm kind of like the middle person that makes both of them friends. So, and up till now, I still have a lot of that. In terms of, I have friends like, I can't even describe. Yeah, how is this person your friend? I don't know, but they're my friend. And then how is that person your friend? So it's very difficult to be able to say this is who she is, because I just see people. I don't see, like, I just see people, if you get what I mean. So if I'm meeting someone, I realize that I there's just always one thing that could connect us. It could be football. It could be the fact that you like watching something. It could be the fact that you like a particular sport. It could be the fact that you've traveled somewhere, or it could be the fact that you have kids, or you have a nephew or a niece, or this and that. And we start to connect on that level. And before you know what's happening, we're already talking about something else. And so now I'm not at the point where there's, you know, hardly, if I go to so many cities, I'm at least I know one or two people, and
Mm.
that is the power of this sort of introverted person now trying to be an extrovert, because I'm not going to be the first person to say, oh, let's chat, let's go here, let's go there, but when we're there, I will definitely show up, and that's the
That,
difference.
yeah, I think it also speaks to the power of introversion. I always say that because I'm very much like you. I play that ambivert, introverted, extrovert kind of role. But I say a lot of times, especially people who are introverted from young, you spend so much time observing and
Mm,
understanding your environment, understanding people, and understanding what makes people tick, that it makes it a lot easier for you when you do eventually open up or talk to know how to be able to connect with people. But you connect at such a deeper level than just a superficial, that it might first take someone aback, but they also like it because
yeah.
you see the person for who the person is, not for what they do or what they can give you or anything else like that. And I think it's such a skill when I listen to you talk about you going through the transition from not having a lot of friends to having so many, but such a wide range of people, and people are surprised. It speaks to those early formative years of you just really, really observing people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that.
And one thing I read about you when I was looking into this as well was like, I think it was like 16, your mom also saw that change in personality that you described, and she kind of entrusted you to start to look after some of the family businesses at 16. How was
Yeah.
that like? Like people who are way older than you reporting into you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that was the real for me. And I think that kind of like shaped me into the person I am. It's like she had to go to the US, and when I was back in Nigeria then. And she, at first I'm like, why? It was just that kind of like, why? How do I? And then quickly I realized that, okay, Tommy, this is probably because she believes you could do it, and she's entrusting all of this, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make her proud. And that was just the whole point for me. So I'm like, okay, let's tap into this. Now you have this, suck it up and get on with it. And but now that I'm looking back at it, I'm like, oh wow, you were an employer at that sort of age. You understand how to deal with people, how to manage conflict, because everything that you could think of happened. how to manage conflict, how to make someone get appreciated for the work they're putting in, how to make sure we don't lose anyone, and because there's no point in her coming back and she's like, half of your staff are already gone. And instead, she came back to something that was like, a completely new mindset. I've increased our supplier base. I've been able to increase the inventory within her, in her store. And she's now looking at even now catering to a younger demographic because of the new things that I've brought into it. And those were things that I just did out of I was just using my own initiative. I didn't, you go to school, you learn things, but you don't know you're learning things until you're putting it. So for me, that was when I saw like the power of demand and supply. I'm like, people are coming to ask for this thing. Well, how come you don't have it? What are you doing with the money? And I'm like, okay, go get it. Negotiate with this person. Never go for the first price. Beat it down. What is the unit price? But I had to like learn all of those things and basically put them to work at that age. Now 16 is like nothing. Everyone is like entrepreneurs at 11 right now. But back then, with no phones, no internet, that was like but I know that was like a tough thing to do. And I think from there I carved up my own business myself. Because I'm like, okay, well, I'm putting this money in the bank. I heard these people talking about African print, but then they're stuck here. They can't do anything. Tommie, you know where to get this African print, because I was just speaking to somebody about it. And then I just went to the neighboring country, picked it up, sold it to them. And I'm like, how do I sell everything without going back and back? I'm like, okay, when you buy more than two, then you could pay me at the end of the month. But if you're not buying that, then you can't. Then everyone was just buying three, and stuff and stuff. And they were just able to pay me at the end of the month. And I did that again. I did that again. So I think for me, I feel like that was the first time I'm like, oh, now this money that I made from selling African print is actually mine. And I didn't do it. I expanded immediately by speaking to them. They sent me to another bank, another branch of the bank. Then I was also, offering the same thing to them, offering the same service. So you could just see from something so small, I was able to figure out the capital on my own. I was able to, and that just blew up. And because of that, when I went to uni and I did other things, I was just constantly trying to find a business angle, and I've always been doing that. Yeah, so that's kind of like the early story that I think got me into knowing that this is what I was born to do. Always just finding there's a problem and I know where to find the solution. I'm doing it.
So where did I guess the desire to move from Nigeria to the UK come from? Because you've gone to study what you're doing well,
Mhm.
you're at uni, got through that, you've got that business acumen, sounds like you're doing pretty well, especially as quite a young age. Why the desire to change and move to a whole different
Oh,
climate and environment?
okay. So this is when you. So I'm a parent, so I understand what we do in terms of you shield your kids from knowing your exact circumstance, and this is what parents do. But then when you start to grow up and you start to be a lot more enlightened, you actually, as a child, work out where you are in the landscape. And I figured out, oh my God, now this is not what I want to do. I want to be better than, my parents have given me very, very good education. They have, poured everything that they could into me. And this is now for me to do way better. And for me to do better, I looked around me. I just couldn't see the opportunities. I had a lot of friends then. During the summer breaks, they always come into the UK, the US. So I gave some of them like a year in advance. Like, can you research this? I've been researching, by myself. But then I'm like, can you do this for me when you go on holiday? Can you do this for me when you go on holiday? And with that, I realized that with all my research, I felt the UK was the best place for me. And I already did all my research and analysis to know how I could get into the UK, how I could start, and how I could just then figure it out to actually make, I was looking for like greener pastures, and for looking at where the country Nigeria was as at that time, I couldn't just see how to be better than what my parents have done. I think they've done everything within their power, but there was just not so much. things they could do with given the economy. There were not so many local jobs, and for the things that I want to do, I needed a different kind of education. I needed a different kind of understanding and exposure, and that was why the next step was, coming to the UK. I told my dad, "It's like you're having a laugh because where is he going to get the money from?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to be resourceful." So this is where I go into modeling. I was on several billboards. I think the unique one was Coca-Cola because they just bought Limca. So that gave me money. I was able to turn that into what's it called? Into pound sterling so that I don't spend it. And with that, that was how I was able to pay the deposit for my school fees, which ended up getting me to travel to the UK.
Wow. And like that's the way to using every single resource that you have.
Absolutely. That's the way forward. It's like you research, you understand, and you're like, okay, I want this thing. You're saying no, okay, there must be a way. But then it's just looking at everything. People tell you, "Oh, you're so pretty." I'm like, "What are we gonna do with this pretty face?" Yeah. So and you just and then there is the people say luck. Well, it could be anything else, which I believe is something else. But I feel like there's a time and a place for something. I have called it into existence. I
Mm.
want this. I absolutely want this. So I'm already manifesting what I want for myself. And because of that, I put the word out. It was like really putting the word out. I'm like, if you know anyone looking for a model, an usher to share this and that, anyone, that I am ready, to be able to do this. And how did I get all these roles? It was just friends saying, "Oh, this person that just called to say someone pulled out last minute and they want to see you. They saw your picture." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then I went to audition. I got it. I was on like, I didn't even see these billboards because I have traveled by the time they're coming out. I was on 3 or 4 billboards at the same time. So
Wow.
yeah, somewhere like one was like a calendar, one was like a mattress, Tejufoam, one was the soap, the black soap, Jujosu, and they were all just. But then the money already did what I wanted.
Was there any time in that between? So there's something actually you said I want to go back to. You said you knew what it is that you wanted to do, and you recognized that the environment in Nigeria at the time was going to be it. What was it that you had an idea that you wanted to build or create at that age at that time?
So I think because of what happened to me at 16, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to
Mm.
be someone that hired other people and could could find very difficult issues and create solutions to it. I realized very quickly that that was where the money is. If you could solve other people's problem, and you end up, and it's helping them, you end up making money even if you don't make the money in the beginning, provided you're solving a real problem. So I realized that for me to be in a position, yeah, where I'm coming from, there's a lot of problems, but then I don't have the power to solve those very, very big problems unless I am financially capable,
Yeah.
and unless I have the know-how in order to do that. So that was why I knew the UK was the next place for me, because for me for me to be able to have pound sterling, and also get the education, get the exposure, understand how things work in here, and my mind was always to go back and actually create something, which I tried, but it just didn't help.
We're talking about this mentality that we Nigerians have, the Nigerian that carry laughs. And I hear that in your story around I know where I wanted to go, so I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. It actually makes me laugh when I think about this shy 7, 8 year old girl to this other
Mm.
person is like, anyone looking for model contracts, put me out there. And that growth and that journey is brilliant to hear. But I'm sure even as you were looking into exploring, okay, I know where I want to go, I know what it is I want to build. Now the how to get there feels impossible, but I'm still going to press forward. Were you ever discouraged, or was it very much like I'm locked in, I have faith, this is going to happen one way, shape, or form?
Very good question, actually. I think that coming to the UK, every time I go through, so this is today. Every time I go through any issues or anything I don't see how I can come out from, I always just pray to God to take me back to when I wanted to come to the UK because I had unwavering faith. I
Mm.
didn't understand what happened. I just knew that this is how the mentality was. I was like, if they're giving one visa, it was just me. When you're like, I just couldn't see beyond. I couldn't see the no. I don't understand what. Now I'm thinking about it. What's wrong with you? But I just had that thing. And I was all around. You could imagine I went to University of Lagos. So, and I was in the popular Moremi Hall. That means there's party every night. There's just so much. You're all around the temptation. You know what I mean? But then I'm like, okay, I was going to go on a fast. I was going to pray. I was going to make this happen for me. It was just about dreaming, dreaming the whole thing, and then working towards making that thing happen. So I felt like, what did I even want to do? I knew what I wanted to do. At first, I felt what I wanted to do was to be an accountant. So I was studying for ACCA. So it was ACCA that was meant to bring me into the UK. But then that was just an ends to a means, means to an end, sorry. And I felt like, okay, when I come in here and I'm able to do that, that allows me to, then I understand how finances work. And that could then take me into the next thing I wanted to do and the next thing I wanted to do. Did I have everything figured out? No. But I was like, I'm one of those kind of people that you might have 20 things on your to-do list. I'm not looking at number 20. I'm looking at the next one. Once I've done the next one, then I'll look at number two, then I'll look at number three. So you could say, oh, even though I have the big picture, but then I understand that if I don't solve the little things, I can't get to that big picture. So for me, the next thing to do was get yourself here. When you get yourself here, you figure the next thing out. So I had the plan was get into school, study for your ACCA, get your ACCA, and then you become a chartered accountant. And with being a chartered accountant, the world opens up for you. I never became a chartered accountant, by the way. Then the world opens up for you, and then you have this route, that route, and it's up to you as at that point where you want to go.
You've done it. You've got that visa. You're now in the UK. What was it like landing and navigating the first couple of years? Because I can imagine it was not. It was not very easy or straightforward.
No, not at all. So it's like, so when you're researching and you haven't really crossed, it's a completely different game when you land, and landing in the UK, as beautiful as I've seen on TV. And then I got into the school, the college, and I just expected that, oh, there's just going to be, because I've always been in boarding schools, so I just felt like it's an extension of me going into a boarding school, that there's just going to be an apartment that's ready for me, and all I need to do was just to make monthly payments, and stuff like that. And I got there and they're like, you're a week late, the apartment we had for you is already gone, and I'm now stranded in the middle of London. I'm in Farringdon, looking all around like, where the hell do I go? And so this is where I had to call my dad. And from there, he was able to connect me to a relative. And quickly, I was able to go to my aunt's place. And her place was not. So these are like, you're expecting, when you're back in Nigeria and they say the son is in London, you're expecting they're living in those sort of. And then I got there, I'm like, whoops, this is not comfortable. And then she was in a situation making the best that she could do as at the time. And she was like, oh, you're so lucky. I have this cleaning job. They have one key and they need two people. So for me, I'm like, okay, Tommy, when you're leaving, you're like, you're going to do everything possible. So I had this mindset, okay, we're going to start with the cleaning. Yes, I can do this. I've psyched myself, you know, mentally that, yes, you can do this. And so I got there, and it was like a place in Regent Street, I can't forget. And it's off their offices. So you have to stock the fridge, clean this level, then go to the next level, then go to the next level. Boy, I'm like, I was doing it, but I was absolutely putting all my best into it. But then I'm hearing you're not doing it well. Clean it. I'm really trying. And I was just not good at it. You clean the toilets, you do this, you do that. And then So she was helping me, teaching me, helping me. I'm like, okay, day one, maybe it's because it's day one. Day two, you'll be better at it. Went there, day two, only tiny improvement. By the time I got to day four, I was like, nah, I can't. But I'm just going to give it one more day and be able to tell, because I'm breaking her heart really, because they only have one key. She could lose that job. And I just told her on the Friday, I'm really, really sorry. I've tried my back, my head. This does not cut it for me. And she's like, do you have any alternative? Do you know how hard it is to make a pound in the UK? I said, I know, I can see. But I feel like there are other things that I could do. And if I'm stuck here, I will never know. And she's like, they're not going to pay you. I'm like, they should keep the money. Um, I need my mental health. I need my sanity. And that was it. So, of course, she was upset. But I then like, okay, Tommy, you have to find a job now. You just left a job. What are you going to do? So I just got on the next bus I saw in front of, because then she was living in Elephant and Castle. Got the bus 453 on Elephant and Castle. And I'm like, wherever this bus stops, this is where my story is going to begin, because I start to look for work there. It stopped at Baker Street, and I came off and I just started to walk up and down trying to like find an assistant job or anything. I walked past Easy Cafe, if you remember those cafes then, as we don't have like personal computers that you just use. And I just found this company. They had administrator. They're looking for someone to, they sells DVDs and CDs. That's entertainment. And that's how I just went in there. I'm like, I'm trying to apply. They're like, okay. Before I know what's happened, before I could cross the road, I was called to say they need my CV. So I went, I got my CV, did it at the Easy Cafe I just passed, and just went back and gave it to them. I got the interview, I got the job. So by the time I was going back home, so remember I left the job today. I got a job today. But that, but then I know people are like, but it wasn't like it was not paying minimum wage, it was paying less than minimum. I was obviously being used, but I didn't mind being used because I'm also using them. You get the point. So they think they're using me, but no, I'm actually using them. I just knew that I needed to land somewhere. I needed to be in a place where I could have conversations, and then I figure it out. So while I was there figuring it out, this is where, I was having conversations. Like I said, the introverted part of me sometimes realize when I need to be an extrovert. So people are coming into the store, I'm looking at them, okay, I'm not talking. When you're trying to pay, I try to say something, compliment something nice, and then you smile. And then I'm like, okay, maybe people are approachable. And then gradually, I'm seeing someone look at something for a while, and I'm like, oh, this just came in. I think that was the time where love actually was like insane for everyone. And I was also in love with the movie. So I was able to like narrate and talk about it. And then the lady said, oh, wow, you're so learned. I'm like, God, duh, I went to school. And then she's like, what did you study? And I told her, yeah, I actually studied insurance. And she's like, oh, if you don't mind, my blah 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 is looking for their office actually hiring insurance salespeople. And I'm like, absolutely, that would be great if you could connect us. And that's how that happened. Before you know what's happening, I was working at AIG. Um, so it's like take it the story, just you just open your mouth and you talk.
Well, the saying says like closed mouths don't get fed.
Yep.
So when you open your mouth and you speak, you never know what it's going to lead to, but it did. And even like I love the way you described it, how you had that initial nervousness, but you
Hmm,
knew you had to step forward and you knew you had to step outside of that to do something a bit different, which felt uncomfortable, but you did it. And
absolutely.
that began your career. And it's remarkable to leave a job and find another job the same day. What? Wow.
I know. So I was like, there was just no point going back home and feeling sorry for myself. What would that do? Nothing. Absolutely. What would it actually think about it? What would that do? It just worsens the situation. The only way to go is just you go out and then you hustle it out, and then you just keep going. And I knew there was just no cushion, so I had to go out there. And I didn't know it was going to be, I was able going to get it the same day. I felt if I don't get it today, my plan is I'm doing the same thing tomorrow. and I pick another bus, and I pick another bus till I find it. You know.
And you spent about what, 8 years in, I'm going to call like a variety and amazing companies of like business analysts kind of roles. As you were going through that journey with those 8 years, was that thought of, I want to start my own business, I want to start my own business, was that still there front and center for you? Or was it just like, it's time and a place?
Okay, so I actually spent more than 8 years. I spent over a decade in financial services delivering digital transformation. But even before I did that, like I said, I've always been an entrepreneur. So I started doing different things that like I can't. There's so many things I've done that I can't even remember every single aspect of it. Some of it are very small, and then later, I think. So I remember there was a time where I would travel when I could travel, when I finally could get the American visa to travel. We'll then bring some clothes in, and then we'll sell. I remember all of those sort of things that you were doing, but then I think the day where the thing shifted for me was while I was working. No, 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 no. So this is it. So while I was, remember I said I was working in insurance. So
Yeah.
this was my first corporate job. People were talking about mortgages. I was coming from Nigeria. There was nothing like mortgages. You pay for everything you want to buy cash. And I had to then figure out what is this about? How do you become someone that can help people with this? So then I realized there was a path towards being a mortgage advisor. So I actually went through that path and became a mortgage advisor. And then I had, how do you then become regulated by the Financial Services Authority? That took another few years. And finally, I started, I had my own property company and I had my own mortgage company
Mm.
where I was then giving and basically selling mortgage advices to people. And that was where I actually started to see, oh my God, there's this much money in in the United Kingdom. There's this much money when you actually set up something really big. So I did very, very well doing mortgages. But then the 2009 crisis happened.
Yeah. Recession. Yeah, I
And
remember that.
yeah, and this was what led me to so from 2008 thereabout, I've already started to dabble into business analysis, contracting, because I had people around me doing that. And people are like, Tommy, you're a natural analyst because, if you could set up a business, that's what you do every day. You are constantly solving problems. But then you also love technology. I used technology for many things back then. I just had a flair for it. While I was also doing that, I also had this concept of I wanted to start a logistics business. I didn't even know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went to. So while I was in my, I had my just at the end, the tail end of the mortgage crisis. I went to Harvard University to do the executive program, and that was where I learned about finding something. For you to build a sustainable business, you must solve a big enough pain. Yeah, and then I learned about the difference between painkillers and vitamins. And so I knew I was actually looking for something that was going to be a strong painkiller. So coming back to the UK, I now like, okay, let me step back into contracting. But while I was doing that, I was also keeping my eye out for my next venture. And this is where I started to observe my postman. The come, not the Royal Mail postman, the parcel. But this is the day before Amazon. You guys, you have to go back to remember what I'm talking about. They'll come in and they'll give you this parcel, you sign, they'll go. And then it's still kind of like the same, but now we get it a whole lot more. But then it was not that many. And when it comes to the Christmas period, they work till very late because the UK used to light up like crazy. It's not that crazy anymore, but then it used to be like crazy. So I just asked this fellow out of curiosity, and then he told me, "How are you?" I started asking questions. Do you mind if I go with you? So we became friends. Do you mind? Like I told you, see this thing I told you in the beginning. I'm friends with everybody, anybody. So I then asked him, "Do you mind if I drive with you and actually be your assistant for a day?" And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yes, I don't have anything I'm doing, but I'm curious about your industry." So I jumped in his van and I was able to, deliver and da da da. And at some point, there was even another day, he had things packed, and I said, I'm going to drive my car behind you. And my car then was a Range Rover. So it's like, we're going to be delivering with Range Rover. I'm like, don't worry, let's just go. You know,
One of those Nigerian things ever.
I'm like, I'm all for it. Let's just go because I just needed to learn. So he gave me some parts. So that, remember, I've learned from him day one. By the time I
Hmm.
got into day three, I'm now delivering part of his own parcels. So I took my car, I'll drive behind him. Then it's like, this is this area. Then I'll just park. Then I'll now be the one signing. You see people, would you not use Range Rover for delivery? I'm like, we've upgraded, And I'm just like, we're just like signing. So I understood it. And then, went back. So I did that for like a week with him. And before I know what's happening, I actually applied for a driver's job. I knew I was not going to do it. I got into their induction. I learned all the terminologies. And the next thing, I set up my own logistic company. So this was how I got into logistics. And logistics was the first place that I made I would say in tech, because I then turned it into a tech logistic company. And that was where I made my very first seven-figure revenue in tech. But I was doing this in parallel to also working in consulting. So going, coming, doing, coming. After a while, I took a break because I was contracting. And because I took a break, I was then able to buy another franchise. Because what I understood was how to do multi-drop. But then I needed to understand, a multi-drop was seasonal. I needed to understand what are all these big trucks, these Arctics, 18 foot, 24 foot, what are they shipping? I didn't understand it. I tried and tried. How do they do same day delivery that comes from a different country to this country? I didn't get it. So I'm like, okay, you have to buy your way in. And then I bought a franchise. I bought a franchise. I understood it. I'm like, oh gosh, this is what I paid money for. This other business is actually even more interesting than my business that I started with just being curious. Was a lot more interesting and a lot more lucrative than the franchise I bought. But I'm like, okay, lessons learned. And then I realized, okay, I had to part ways with the franchise. But all the while I was still doing this, I was also still working in corporate. At some point, the logistic business did so well, but then I made the schoolboy error. And the schoolboy error was the fact that I had it. So we had contracts all around the country. We had, like, think about it, every single um big company you can think of that is involved in logistics today, they were my customers. Your DPD, your FedEx, your DHL, apart from UPS, we didn't get UPS. We had like all of them. UK Mail, CityLink. And then this year, a certain year, I then decided, for one reason or the other, we're doing so well. We had nationwide where I was traveling from Manchester to Liverpool, in Essex, Kent, this and that. Just supplying them drivers, really supplying them drivers. I had my brother then, who, another story, but I'll leave that one. Basically, set up a database where these drivers will come in. They'll feel, they'll be able to apply. So we basically had a recruitment platform, a CRM, all that we built by ourselves. And decided to then create a mobile application. And all of this was happening. But then 2015 came, and CityLink was my biggest supplier for that year. I don't know why I did that. And I still ask myself, why did you do that? Was that greed? Was that you just wanted the easy way out? I don't know. Because typically I spread myself thin. So if anything happens with this, but that year I didn't. And I paid the big price for it. And the price was, I woke up Christmas Day and CityLink in 2014,
Damn.
Christmas, CityLink went bust.
Hmm.
And it went bust. I had hundreds of thousands of invoices unpaid. And I still have hundreds of thousands of salaries I also needed to pay. So I was in a hole of over 400K.
Yes.
Do you get what? So that basically killed the whole thing for me, because I was then, how do I come out of this? Out because you pay, they don't pay you this 6 months. I also had a very, very bad contract with them that was 60 days.
Days payment terms.
Yeah, the net.
Mm.
So that means that I had to have my own funds to pay the drivers because they were getting their funds twice a week. I mean, sorry, twice monthly. So some of them are weekly if I really, really want to, and some I'm like, this is the terms. It's just you get you get your money bi-weekly. So I had this driver who worked to them. They worked for them up till 24th of December, and then we woke up 25th. CityLink has been sold for £1. And I'm like, what? I had the administrator from EY call to say, you're not going to be, if you'll be
Paid.
lucky to get anything because you are so far back.
And
And
when that initially happened, what was your initial like reaction?
so I realized that people were scared to tell me that because this was on BBC News. And I was just seeing my husband was getting a lot of calls. And I'm like, why will my employee be calling my husband? They don't really talk. That like, but then I'm like, something is going on. You guys stop. What is happening? And then I saw it, and it was just this sinking feeling, like my world has collapsed. But then I didn't sit in there for too long because there's just no point. It has already happened. I can't change it. All I could do is to react. And I'm like, okay, this has happened. I shed a tear or two, and I'm like, what do I do next? How do I wake up tomorrow and actually know that it's going to be a good day? That week was very, very uncomfortable. But at the same time, I had to then start to think of what are the decisions I have to make. So from there, the answer was I had to exit the business because I just couldn't find a way. And I had to then start who is going to buy what I have. And in a way that I will be able to make some money to pay back these drivers. So I ended up selling, the things that the business. But if that didn't happen, we'll have sold it for a whole lot more. But because of that issue, I was just able to take what I could take in order to pay the debt that I had, and then went fully into now learning from corporates because I'm like, you have a lot to learn.
To be fair though, like up until that point, that is still remarkable success to have as for what you can call a side hustle, because you said you're still contracting and everything else. So to build up a business to seven-figure revenue that's national, that is not easy at all.
Yeah. It
Wow.
wasn't. It wasn't. But it was like that was what. But how do I put it? I'm glad I did because all those learnings are what I'm using with Tech1M today. Because for me then I was just doing logistics. Actually, I was in recruitment, but I
Mm.
didn't understand that. I understood, but I didn't. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not using the right terminologies. I was just using logistics terminology. Now that you take a step back and look at the big picture, no, you were in logistics, but you were actually recruiting in logistics. I wasn't physically working in logistics. I was recruiting logistics staff. So now I could use that to my favor because now I understand, oh, that is a crazy industry and I understand it very, very well, you know. Yeah. So yeah, that was that.
It's one thing that you mentioned earlier on that you learned from Harvard and painkillers versus vitamins.
Yeah.
Break it down further.
Can I go? Okay. So painkillers are like, if you think about it today, do you only use painkillers when you have a headache? And when you have a headache, you don't have a choice. For that headache to calm down, the first thing you think about is, do I get ice and put on my head? But those are like take longer. Or do I just go into my cabinet and take paracetamol? Most times, 9 out of 10 people will take paracetamol. That means they must use the product. Do you get the point? There is a pain. But then how many times, like I've forgotten this morning already to use my multivitamins. How many times do you have your B12 and you have your vitamin C and you just, is it that you are very diligent and it's just an habit and you just get up in the morning and you pop it up because you know you need it? Or it's something that, oh, I forgot. I didn't take it yesterday because you don't know your body needs it, but it's not showing you it needs it, if you get what I mean. You are not in any uncomfortable situation. So the B12 is working in your body, but you can't see it. But the headache, you can feel it. So that is the difference. So when you're solving a problem that is actually nice to have, and that was why when Steve Jobs was creating the iPad, people thought it was going to be a vitamin. But then they created a brand new category that you are now like, it's not a painkiller because we have something that we could, other things that we could use. But then to some people, it's actually a painkiller. They don't want to carry a heavy laptop all around. So it could be seen as a painkiller or vitamin. So for me, I was looking for an absolute problem that if I have the medicine for this problem, you have no choice but to use it. And that's the difference between a painkiller and a vitamin.
Love that analogy. And you got back into corporate now, you're doing what you're doing, you're learning. And before you, I think you started what, event B.
And breathe, yeah.
Were you nervous, especially after what happened with multi-droppers? Were you nervous thinking, do I really want to do this again? Do I really want to go down this path again? Or was it always like, no, I'm going to take a breath, but I'm definitely going to be back?
Oh, I was nervous, 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 very nervous. I'll give you an example. Even after multi droppers, we created the mobile app and I could not launch it because I was scared. Yeah, and this is when I read there was something called Amazon Flexi, and I'm like, they're just going to kill us again, you know. And I just that's a regret. I should have brought it out, but then I just didn't know better. So that fear was there. So while I was working, I kept thinking. So I then went back to my wedding in my head. Like when I wanted to do my wedding, I wanted this fantastic wedding. I had a good budget, but it was not good enough for the. I wanted a premium wedding, and I had kind of like a McDonald's budget. You know what I mean? But then my budget was not that. You know, it was still for me. It was extremely sizable because you could buy a house with that budget, but it was not anything Princess Diana like. But my dream wedding was Princess Diana kind of like wedding with all the flowers. It was just the flowers that was in my head. So I'm like, babes, the flowers alone are going to take up your entire budget. So how do you, do this? So I had to be resourceful. I had to go to Chelsea Market myself. I had to understand flowers. I had to find the florist, build the arrangement together, became a florist, all of that just for the wedding. But then also in trying to find suppliers, I needed to call a friend of a friend of a friend. There was just no place I could go. So I'm like, all right, now here goes a pen. Imagine if you want to do this for a corporate event, a birthday, a this or that. Let's come up with something. My daughter's name was Brianna, and I just thought Eventbrite. Came up with Eventbrite. And so Eventbrite, we then had two applications. One was the pretty much the B2C application. And then we also had the B2B application, which was you want to go to an event. Apart from the event organizers finding suppliers, they also want the people coming to the event to be able to book their ticket, pay for their ticket. Think of Eventbrite, but a place where you can also not Eventbrite plus more, but a place where you can also see the things that are happening simultaneously at the event.
Yeah.
So, you go into this.
Everything basically for events.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we kind of like had that and we created the MVP of this. The MVP of the business one was actually interesting because we had like the African Union using it.
Mm.
We had even presidents of countries actually used the application at one of the events that they had. So it was quite interesting for our product to just go. But then quickly, I started to see people like Hopping and Co. who raised donkey amount of money, like millions and millions. I'm like, oh, they're just going to kill us. So that fear started to creep in all over again. On the event side, I realized that it was doing well, but the type of money I'm looking for, this is not going to give it to me if because we did about 2000 events, no, 70 events, and when I looked at what we made in that 70 event, it was just about £2,000. I'm like, nah, nah, not for this lifestyle that we're going for. This is not going to cut it. I need to have like 1 million events done for this to happen. and I didn't understand venture capital. Remember, everything I knew was bank, basically um, doing everything by myself. When I mean everything by myself, I was just basically backing myself financially. Everything was just bootstrap.
Distract.
So I knew that, okay, you know what, somebody else. I had to break the application and ended up selling that as well. So this is and that was the story of Eventbrite. But Eventbrite did so well. We got a lot of awards for Eventbrite. It was like in a novelty kind of category then, before everybody started to come out. But for me, it was quite interesting that I saw it very early enough, before a lot of people got into the game. But they had the money, and because they had the money, they had the speed and to be able to take the market, which I wouldn't have. And that is the difference. So now all those learnings are now like, okay, you need money, you need contacts, you need know-how, you need to have a painkiller that you're solving, a very big pain. You need to have a good solution, but then you need speed. And I put all that together and I'm like, okay, let's go again, So that's where we are.
Sounds like you're someone I describe as you always being ahead of the game. You have the ability to be able to see things before they are the most popular things. Even with like multi droppers, like I said, it was way before Amazon and everything else that's Prime and all that is live right now. You saw that beforehand. Eventbrite, again, you saw that beforehand. So where would you say you've honed that ability to see things before they actually become popular for you?
So I think so. It goes back to trying to solve a pain. So I'm not. So this is what. Let me tell you what entrepreneurs do today. So they see an application and they're like, I could do better, and they just go and create a another version of the application. That is not innovative. The real innovation comes with you learn from the other applications, but you don't build what the other application has. Again, the real innovation is actually experiencing a pain, or talking to people that have experienced a certain pain, learning exactly how the pain, where it hits them, and trying to then at the simultaneously understanding the technological advancements that we have to be able to solve that pain and hit it at the right spot. And if you do that, regardless of what your competitor is doing, you're always going to hit the right thing. Now, where you have an advantage, if some people have gone before you to do some, and it might not be in the industry that you really want it to be, you get. So it could be that you could take learnings from another industry and like, okay, this has not come into this particular industry, but it is coming, you know? And so this is how I look at things. So I'm trying to, like, the things that we're building in my team knows me when I'm like, okay, let's scrap that. They're like, what? I'm like, the game has gone. It's like the timing. You had this window to do this and you didn't do it in this window. Technology moves so fast. This has now happened. We now need to do this and this and this. So I feel like it's about understanding the pain, and the pain today is different from the pain tomorrow. The pain changes because somebody else might have given you something to suppress that pain, but now I'm trying to solve the entire pain. Will you go with me or would you go, so we have to now adapt in a completely different way. So it's just about staying curious and learning from by talking to people, talking to the real users. Sometimes I have a hard time realizing that I'm not going to be the user of this product. But because sometimes they're trying to build something to perfection, and you're like, tell me, wait a minute, this is not built for you. Calm down. That. So whenever I catch myself doing that, I realize, oh no, Tommy, this is not built for you. We have to talk to the users as much as possible. Speak to the people that are actually going to use this, and then you understand how their pain is changing per time. Because if you don't solve the pain, no one is going to use it. It's not going to be successful. So if that's, and because you're solving the pain, it then appears like you're someone that understands what is about to happen, and you're going before things will happen. But that's because you are talking to the source in itself. So you already know what to do to tackle the pain.
So now you're in a position where you've got the pain, you've got the speed, you're venture backed
Mm-hmm.
with Tech1M. How are you feeling as you're going ahead in this current reign of recruitment and doing what you're doing now?
So I don't know if this is the first place I'm going to admit this. It's scary. So I know that's not the feeling I thought I was going to feel, and I don't know if it's a good thing even admitting this, but I'm just being transparent. It's like it's scary in a good way, but it's also okay. So let me explain what I mean. So this is it. It's like you want something so bad, you figured it out, you know what you want to do, and all you need is this, that, and you got what you now needed, and you're like, you should be excited. Yes, I was, but it didn't last. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm excited. Okay, 1 day, 2 days. Okay, now you have it.
I can
What
do it.
next? Do you understand what I mean? Now the doing, that is another cup of tea completely, because it's not about everyone say someone's going to stick my, nobody's stealing your idea. Can you execute the idea?
Yeah.
Execution is the hardest thing possible. So we're able to execute to the level where we got venture backed. But then that's just the beginning of the story. So now it's no longer just you, Tommy. You can't even now fail because then you've tied so many other people with you. When you fail, your failure is going to be big because it's going to be so obvious. Now, can you fail at something and pivot? Of course, we are allowed to fail. Fail, you learn from failing. That's absolutely fine. But then, in terms of, I believe I understood what we wanted to do. I'm now in the position where I have to execute it right, and in doing that comes a new pressure, and this pressure is something that I am not used to. Like I said, my experience so far has been finding an idea, understanding the source, understanding the pain, building the solution, using them, backing myself to create this, and then I reap the rewards and do it all over again. If I have feelings in there, I have no one I'm going to go cry to or no one I'm reporting to. I just need to figure it out and get it done. But now you have a number of investors that have believed in you. You have employees that are tied to you, and not just tied to you, they have families that are tied to them. So the ripple effect of what you're doing. Hiring one person is like hiring 50 people because they have other people that are also looking at them that they are probably supporting. And all of that pressure comes onto you. So you are now like, Tommy, this is where your leadership has to be, pretty much dead on. You have to be able to attract the right people to believe and back this vision that I have. And you have to be able to speak in a very eloquent manner for that vision to be clear and not just be in your own head, because you are not an island and you need execution. And execution comes with every single person around you and not just you trying to do every single. So that is the pressure that makes me feel like, oh, but then pressure is a privilege, and I'm excited to have this pressure. But every single day I have to wake up knowing that, all right, you're carrying this, and you have all of a sudden something that did not have a time limit, you now have a time limit because your venture backed, you have this money to a particular period, you have to raise it all over again at this point, and there is a particular metrics you have to meet, and that comes with its own pressure.
I know it's a good thing
It
that you
is.
actually feel that. One of the things I do in my work, obviously, is working with a lot of global CEOs around the world of massive companies, global companies. And whether you're running 1 million to a $50 billion company, it's very, very interesting that that's one thing they always talk about is they feel that fear, they feel that pressure. But the great leaders are the ones that utilize that as fuel to drive them rather than to hold them back. And they're like, every single time I don't feel that, that means I no longer care anymore. And that's not what I want to have. So you
Yeah,
actually having that fear, I actually see as it's a really, really brilliant thing because you have that weight of responsibility. You're not letting it take over you, but using it as a driver to help you ensure that you deliver to the best of your ability. And that's what you really want as a leader.
absolutely. I think I couldn't have said it better. So it's just that because you just know that it shows that you really, really absolutely care about the problem you're solving. And you also, not just that, you care about the people you've brought in to help you solve this problem. And you now, you can't just, you wake up every day, that's what you're consumed by it.
Mm,
And at the same time, you also need the time to clear your head and be able to see through the cloud. and be able to come up with the strategies that allow you win. So you have this thing, that is resting on your shoulders. It's a responsibility, but like I said, it's a I wouldn't. Well, there's nothing else I'd rather do with my life. I'm in a very interesting place that I love what we're working on. I love the people I work with. I love the problem we're solving, and it's just every day like, okay, let's find the most interesting ways to solve it, and that's it.
How do you define leadership?
So leadership, I would say, is some people say it's something you're born with. I don't know about that, but I feel like you could be born with it, but it's also something you could learn. I think that and I wouldn't say that there's a one style fits all when it comes to leadership. I have my own style of leadership. I like um to be like, I don't even know how you describe that, but I'm not like a leader that is like autocratic. But then I have times where I'm like, this is how we're doing it. So it's like you have to have the way to switch up at every time. I think in terms of my own style of leadership, I'm a leader from like a mentor kind of way. I want to bring an idea. I have an idea, but I want your buy-in on that idea. And instead of me just saying, oh, here is my idea and I dump it on you, I kind of like push it a little bit and then ask you what you think. And then before you know what's happening, you think you're the one coming up with the idea and I give you the credit. That's all right. We get to the end. That's my own style of leadership. It makes people feel like they're valued. But then I can't keep using that. There are times where for this particular situation, it is a completely different style of leadership that is required. So I feel leadership is something that in order to have you and you also have to understand that the people that are coming to work with you and build this vision for you with you, I should say, they are all different personalities, and many of them also have their own leadership skills. So obviously there will be like sometimes there could be like clashes of that sort of thing. How do you maneuver that? So, and this is why the same style of leadership cannot see you through your entire career. So I feel like for me, I'll describe leadership as something that you develop, you learn, and you constantly build around, and you're looking at situations and adapting different styles to be able to come. But ultimately, you have a vision and you never pretty much deviate from that vision. However, the goals and the mission to get to that vision might change, and you need to then be someone that people can see that you can take them to that promised land. And for you to do that, you have to use all the different tools within your arsenal to get you there.
It's always very situational, isn't it? It's not one, like I said, it's not one size fits all, depending on what the people need around you, what the
Mm.
culture needs around you at that point in time as well. And playing that game, it's a great principle. And I guess as we bring it to a close, and you're fascinating, honestly, it's fascinating. I didn't even know that you're dripping. I was like, wow. What is the best way that people can support what you're building? Because you mentioned that pressure and that weight that you carry, and being a venture backed black owned organization also has its own different weight. So what
Right.
are the best ways that people can actually support what you're building to hopefully reduce some of that pressure, but also ultimately make sure that's a success?
Oh yeah, thanks for asking that. So Tech1M, we've built Tech1M. So it's a recruitment intelligence platform, and what we are trying to do is to use human and AI augmentation to simplify talent acquisition. So it is a comprehensive platform that basically has a full applicant tracking system within it, has a skill assessment platform within it, has a way in which you could source for candidates, and we have over 5 million candidate profiles, public profiles on it. And then we also have the area in which you could actually you know, get what we call elite candidates, which we have pre vetted for you. Of course, that is like an addition if you want that. Now, what people can do, and the reason why we've created this is because we've heard from, our recruiters, in-house teams, and companies, especially mid-sized, small to mid-sized businesses. And we've heard the fact that, if you don't have the right people building the things that you want to build, innovation basically stops. And we don't want that to stop. So we want every company to be able to have like a CRM of candidates that they can easily get into. And when they're looking for something, you don't have to go through the very, very expensive way of doing it. You could use a tool like Tech1M to help you get your very good quality candidates very fast in multiple ways that we're doing it. So people can really help in, understanding what we're doing. If you're a company, we're launching our freemium model at the end of October. So get into it, create a free account, see how Tech1M can help you, and then obviously then upgrade when you see that it can help you. If you are a candidate looking to what's it called, get a job or change your role, come into the talent aspects of Tech1M. You'll be able to see not only jobs on Tech1M, but also jobs around the world that we've been able to pull into the platform so you could be in one place and start to hire. We're pulling in courses as well from the likes of Coursera, Meta, and the rest. So you could see courses, free or paid, that could help you accelerate your career. And this is kind of like, and all that for candidates is absolutely free. And this is kind of like, for us is a stepping stone into building an AI agent for candidates that allows you to know what to do next wherever you are. And so if you're a candidate, you'll be able to create a Tech1M account and grow with us as we grow, share the word with people, let them understand what we're doing, and then give us feedback as well so we could get better.
Well, you have heard it first. That is a very, very comprehensive platform. But I think one of the things that always stands out to me is listening to like your journey and how you've got here with all the vast experience that you've had, both from corporate entrepreneurship to then to be able to build a platform like this. You understand what both organizations are looking for and what clients are also looking for. And you're pouring that knowledge into an AI platform. So people who are hearing your journey, hearing your story, and then knowing what you've built right now, get involved because you know it's going to be absolutely brilliant. It's definitely going to help you out. But Tommy, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story because you dropped so many gems that I know people definitely going to learn from it. I definitely have. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It was brilliant.
So, the leadership, we'll see you next week.